Ah, hello guys. Welcome to stream. Yes, stream. Oh, പുല്ല് എൻ്റെ പടം ഇങ്ങനെ ആ അയ്യോ വേറൊന്നുമല്ല, ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ സ്ട്രീം ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കി, പക്ഷെ അത് എന്തോ കാര്യത്തിൽ വർക്കായില്ല. ഹലോ ഗൈസ്. പുല്ല്, ഞാൻ സ്ട്രീം തന്നെ നോക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. എനിവേസ്, ഐ ഗസ് നമുക്ക് തുടങ്ങാം. ഞാനിപ്പോൾ റീഡ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു ബെക്സെറ്റിൻ്റെ കൂടെ പോക്കിമോൺ ഗോയിൽ. അപ്പോൾ എനിക്കൊരു ഷൈനി മെസ്പ്രറ്റിനെ കിട്ടി. സോ ഹാപ്പി, ഐ ഗസ്. ഇനി അതിനെ ഒന്ന് പിടിക്കാൻ നോക്കുക. ഫാക്ക് കിൽ എനിമീസ്. ഡെയിലീസ് പോകാൻ പെട്ടെന്ന് നിർത്താൻ കുറച്ച് പണിയുണ്ട് കുറച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട്. സോ അതുകൊണ്ട് ഗ്രൈൻസ് ഒക്കെ ഒന്ന് പെട്ടെന്ന് ഫാസ്റ്റ് ട്രാക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കുക. നേരത്തെ തുടങ്ങായിരുന്നു, പക്ഷേ മറ്റേ സ്ട്രീമിൻ്റെ ഇഷ്യൂ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ. ഗെറ്റ് ഇൻ ദ ബോൾ പ്ലീസ്. സ്ട്രീമിൻ്റെ ഇഷ്യൂ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ, അതുകൊണ്ട് എന്ത് എത്ര ബോളുണ്ട്? 15 ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, നൈസ്. Raise the sky.
All right, where's the fight?
Oh, frillish. എനിക്ക് റയർ ക്യാൻഡി ഒന്നും കിട്ടിയില്ല, സാഡിൽ. ആക്ച്വലി 3 റയർ ക്യാൻഡി, 9 കിട്ടി. ഓക്കെ, നൈസ്. നൈസ്. ഈ ലാർവെസ്റ്റ് ലെവലപ്പ് എങ്ങനെ ആക്കുന്ന ആലോചിച്ചോണ്ടിരിക്കുക. യെസ്. ഓ, ഫക്ക്. സ്ക്രീൻഷോട്ട് എടുക്കുന്നതിൻ്റെ വരും.
Spike rush.
Sky, ever thought about making other summons? Like, lions? Or, dragons? Tried once. It was...
നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഓഡിയോ എന്തെങ്കിലും വിയർഡായി തോന്നുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഒന്ന് തന്നെ പിങ് ചെയ്യണേ, പറ. കാരണം ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ഹെഡ്ഫോൺ സെറ്റിങ്സ് അപ്പാരൻ്റ്ലി സീനായി കിടക്കുക എന്നാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്.
Blinded. My ult rate. Seek them out. Found one. There's another. Taken out. Here.
You are powerless.
Enemy spotted mid. Enemy spotted mid. Silence.
30 seconds left. Last player standing.
Even with numbers, anything can still happen. Remember that. Reloading.
Kırın kill enemy'sin. Plant spikes'ın.
Where to set up shop?
Hawk out.
Oh, 1-on-1. Oh.
Eliminate.
Last player standing.
You fought well.
One enemy remaining. Team Ace.
Ah.
Last round in the half.
Remember, the Rift Walkers
Reloading.
over there. Never think you're safe.
Fire!
You want to play? Let's play.
Here.
Enemy spotted A. Enemy spotted A.
My ult's ready. Seek them out. Found one.
Last player standing.
രണ്ടുപേരും മരിച്ചു.
Who's next?
Switching sides. Match point.
Stay taut as a
The fight demands it. Never lose sight.
Hawk out. Hawk out.
Tagged.
Blinded.
Taken out. Enemy spotted A.
Ah, fuck. അതിന് വിഷൻ വേണമെന്ന്. അത് വിഷൻ വേണ്ടേ? അതെന്ത് ബുൾഷിറ്റാണ്. ആ സാധനത്തിന് വിഷൻ കൊടുക്കണമായിരുന്നു.
Last player standing.
Okay.
Attackers win.
Goodbye. Okay. ഓ, 10 എനിമീസ് ആണല്ലേ. കുറച്ച് സമയം എടുക്കും.
Match found.
ഹെയ്വനോ 3 സൈറ്റ്.
Relax. I've already thought of everything.
എനിക്ക് വയ്യ.
Match found.
ആരാടി ത്രോ ചെയ്തോണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്? ഭ്രാന്തരായിട്ട് കളി കളിച്ച്. സ്പ്ലിറ്റ്.
Wherever they run, I will find them.
ഹാഷ് മലയാളം അടിച്ചപ്പം അത് കിട്ടി. ഹാഷ് സഫറിങ് അടിക്കുമ്പോ എന്താ കിട്ടല്? ഐ സീ.
Spike rush.
Oh, I'm hungry. Anyone hungry? Lunch on Brimstone after this.
Not.
Scanning ahead.
Fuck.
Not deploying drone.
I could try something.
Enemy. Shock dart.
Enemy spotted mid.
మిడిల్ లో ఒకడు.
Down.
పై దగ్గర
Heaven.
One enemy remaining.
3 gone. Reload. Scanning ahead.
apologize to them.
Ah!
Alas.
അതെല്ലാം മിസ്സായി. നൈസ് 3 കിലോ കിട്ടി. നൈസ്.
Stay on their trail.
You know what? നോക്കാം.
We will survive.
Revealing area. Deploying drone. Too slow.
Reloading.
Campo
Shock
పెట్టండి.
dart.
So,
Cutting their vision. There.
Multiple enemies mid.
Spike planted.
Oh, Banshot. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Pathetic. My ult ready.
Nice.
Revealing
wait,
area.
wait.
Found
एक
them.
आगे राइट से आ रहा है.
Enemy spotted. B. Still in sight. One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
Ah!
Oh. Nice.
Flip.
नहीं.
Okay, no problem.
Next round डालते हैं, use करते हैं.
Last round before the switch.
Just gotta play around the slow field and we're fine.
Break them.
You want to play? Let's
Scanning ahead.
play.
Don't peek. Same or not?
Enemy spotted. Fire in the hole!
उधर फिनिक्स और ये सोवा उधर
Scanning ahead.
30 seconds left. Last player standing. 10 seconds left.
They are so dead.
Switching sides.
Just let them try to catch me. There. Careful here.
Revealing area. There, take flight. Right here. Shock dart. Shock dart.
Enemy spotted me.
Right here.
Spotted B. Enemy spotted B.
Revealing area.
नहीं केओ दोनों ए पे ही है.
30
सर
seconds
बी
left.
सॉरी बी सॉरी फॉर रॉन्ग बी पे ही है.
Right here.
Ten seconds left. Spike planted.
Change.
दोनों ए पे आ गए.
Scanning ahead. There they are. Right here.
One enemy remaining.
Recon.
Nice one.
Oh, the one I'm popping off.
My ult is ready. You failed. Now sleep.
I'm amped. Let's go. I got things to do.
Reloading.
Scanning ahead. Take flight.
दोनों तरफ से आ गए. Bro ऊपर सो है.
Nowhere to run. I am the
Heaven.
hunter.
Heaven.
Spike planted. Last player standing.
Nice man.
Match point. The symphony of death. Don't worry, you get used to it.
Stay safe.
Ooh, Xena Hunter. Nice.
Revealing area.
Watch this.
Deploying drone.
Spike planted.
No, ipo na.
Joke's over! You're dead!
Last player standing. Flawless.
Ah.
Attackers win.
നാളെ മൺഡേ. Oh shit. PPT. അതാണ് ഞാൻ മറന്നത്. ആ ഓഫീസിരുന്നു ഞാൻ.
Match found.
Stand in my way.
എല്ലാം കൊണ്ട് എനിക്ക് വയ്യ.
Spike rush.
Don't worry, guys. They say I'm a prodigy. Not my words. Not my words, baby.
Concussing!
Reloading.
Blinding!
Multiple fucking Reloading.
Flash out!
Night night. Get him. Multiple enemies B.
What?
Last player standing. 30 seconds left.
Careful now.
Ten seconds left.
Spike planted.
They still planned it.
Raze, plug me into the tunes. Yeah, I know you got the good stuff. Reloading.
Let's go.
Joke's over. You're dead.
Clearing out! Blinding! Flash out!
One down. My ult's ready. Watch this.
Right there.
Target 86.
Right there.
Light planted. Flashbang. Flash.
Last player standing. Last round in the half.
I'll burn brighter than their phoenix. Just watch me.
Concussing! Blinding! Suppressing. Fleet suppressed. Nowhere to run. Dead.
Grenade!
No one knocks away. Throwing charge. Flash. Flashbang. Missile.
30 seconds left.
Chill out. Chill out.
Last player standing.
Oh.
Switching sides. Match point.
I hate to say it, but probably best to play as a team. So, what's the plan? We'll bring it back.
Trevor! Blinding! You're nothing. Blasting!
Multiple enemies B.
Flash out!
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
My ult's ready. Never back down.
Stay safe.
Concussing! Let's go! Knife deployed. One suppressed. Clearing out! Shut down. Blinding! Flash out!
The hunt begins.
Dead.
Fuck.
One enemy remaining. Thirty seconds left. Spike planted.
Suppressing. Careful now. Watch your eyes. Here.
Last player standing.
Get out of my way!
Clutch.
Oof.
Attackers win.
Apex കളിക്കാം ഇനി. റീറോള് ചെയ്യണ്ടായിരുന്നു പുല്ല്.
Victory is assured.
ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഇടട്ടെ.
Twist villains are dumb. I'm sure at one point it was a novel concept to put a twist villain in your animated movie, but today I'm going to go into detail on which twist villains work, which ones don't, and also talk about where this oversaturation of twist villains in Disney and Pixar movies came from. That means full spoilers for all these movies. Click away if you care about spoilers. 3, 2, 1. So one of the defining aspects of Disney animated movies is their intimidating villains. They're always established as the villain early on in the movie so that we can get to see their nefarious personalities. Pixar came across and was like, a twist villain is basically any character who's introduced as a good guy at first, but later on is revealed to be evil the whole time. Examples of Pixar twist villains include Stinky Pete, Mr. Waternoose, Charles Muntz, and John Lasseter. At first, the whole twist villain thing really worked for Pixar. Early movies like Toy Story 2 and Monsters Inc. had an obvious villain from the start in order to get that sweet villainy goodness, but they also had twist villains towards the end. Their motivations made sense, and the twists tied in organically with the plot. Stinky Pete has been nicely trying to convince Woody to stay throughout the entire movie, but he has to force him in the end in order to get his way. And as for Waternoose, it's not personal. It's just business. Later down the line, Pixar incorporated some twist villains into movies that didn't initially seem to need a villain at first. Wall-E was a love story between two robots in a race to get humanity back home to save the environment. But that plotline could use a little conflict, so boom, surprise villain. Up is a journey about an old man and a young boy taking a house over to a waterfall. They have many misadventures along the way, but we need more conflict, so this evil old dude wants to kidnap the bird that they're traveling with. Boom. Surprise villain. These villains work, just not quite as well as Stinky Pete or Waternoose. Otto is just following his programming left behind by the corrupt businessman humans from 700 years ago who think the Earth is beyond saving. If anything, their ignorance is the villain here, and Otto is just a reflection of that. So he works. And Choo Choo Mince was established at the beginning of the movie. He's been here a while, he's gone crazy to the point where he wants to murder a child. Sure, it makes sense, I guess. One thing that makes it work though is the fact that there's not a lot of characters in Up. Once you meet this guy, you kind of get the sense that he'd have to be the villain in order for the story to naturally progress. So this movie's not really trying to trick you into thinking he's a good guy. Rather, you're just waiting for the moment where the characters realize he's not a good guy. And even if he doesn't tip you off, the clearly sinister dogs who work for him should have. So it's a good twist villain because even though it's predictable, the movie doesn't really try to pretend that it isn't, unlike some other movies. I'd also put Lotso in the same category as Muntz. Even as a 12-year-old kid, I went into this movie basically knowing he was the villain without anything tipping me off to that fact. It's a prison escape movie. He's in charge of the prison. He's clearly gonna be evil, and we just need the characters to catch up with the audience. So Lotso works as a twist villain, but what makes him even better is the fact that not only is he revealed to be evil halfway through, rather than in the last third, but he's essential to the plot of the movie. Whereas you could tweak Wall-E and Up to remove the villains if you really wanted to. And then there's Syndrome, who is in my opinion the crown jewel of twist villains. He starts out as a random, annoying kid who appears in the prologue. Then 15 years later, he's pretty much forgotten about for a while. But the seeds for his motivation have been planted without being super obvious. You see this scene? If that scene had happened during the prologue, then it would have been obvious that he'd be the villain. But as is, it's genuinely really surprised to see him again as the bad guy, and it makes narrative sense. And, much like Lotso, he shows up halfway through and not in the last third. We have plenty of time to enjoy these characters as villains, and we get the benefit of a neat little twist, especially for kids who can't see plot twists coming. So every surprise villain in early Pixar is fine by me. Then Disney came along and said, hey, let's do that. But worse. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. In all honesty, Disney and Pixar have pretty much become the same company at this point. They had the same people in charge for a while, until recently that is. And as a result, it's no surprise that Pixar's running trends started seeping into Disney films. And the result has not been so hot. Disney kicked off its twist villain streak with King Candy and Wreck-It Ralph, who's not really a twist villain in the traditional sense. He's hinted to be evil pretty early on, and while they try and trick you into trusting him a little bit towards the middle, it's not long before you realize, yeah, no, this guy's a meanie. He's a bad guy. Is that he's a good guy from a different game, but he's not like a good guy in the sense that he's actually a good person. No, he's a shame in his revisionist. Yeah, King Candy is secretly a racer from a different game. He went rogue and took over Sugar Rush. The backstory is explained earlier on. There's some subtle hints that he doesn't belong. I mean, what kind of name is King Candy when you have names like Capita Mutton Top and Candlehead? And even though you don't know he's Turbo early on, you still know he's evil. So he has a chance to be a great, fun Disney villain. You know, the thing the studio is good at. So Disney did a great job with their first twist villain. Oh, was that twist villain was this hat thing? Yeah, nobody cares. See you later, crappy. Wow, I guess twist villains are actually a lot better than I remember.
If only there was someone out there who loved you.
Oh, fuck. Frozen marks the beginning of the twist villain downward spiral. Hans is not revealed to be evil until the last 15 minutes. He gives me no indication that he's a bad guy. I can't take him seriously as a bad guy. Because of you, Olaf actually has plot relevance, and that makes me mad. Now, Hans' motivation at least makes sense. I think. He's never gonna be king in his own land, so he wants to marry a princess and rule. Does that necessarily translate into violent murderer, man?
It's left now is to kill Elsa and bring back Summer.
How do you know that will bring back Summer? You guys don't know anything about how her powers work. Nobody knows how her powers work. Disney doesn't know how her powers work. So from a thematic standpoint, I guess Hans kinda works. Like, don't marry a guy you just met. Could be a violent sociopath hiding underneath those rugged sideburns.
Got another shot.
Hey, wait a minute.
I want to sue Disney.
Oh yeah, can we talk about this scene? When you first watch the movie, you assume he's thinking, wow, I really like that girl. But actually, we now know that this is the face of a man who is thinking, I can't wait to murder that girl's sister and take over the kingdom. So you see why this twist is kind of bad? It genuinely feels like they threw the plot point about him being evil in at the last minute because, hey, we gotta have a villain, right? The conflict can't just be between these two sisters and the fact that her heart is frozen, right? If you really wanted a villain who could try and kill Elsa, there you go. That guy. He was already trying to kill Elsa. Why did you need to drag Hans into this? Why can't they just kiss? And the kiss doesn't work because she doesn't love Hans anymore. So they gotta get into Jonathan Groff, but the Duke of Weaselland tried to stop him and Hans sacrificed himself maybe or something, or you know, could you take out the sequel? I don't care. And I should mention one more thing. Maybe I was just a dumb 15-year-old, but it could also be because there was that this would be a thing. But after that, I vowed to myself, Disney is not going to trick me with a twist villain ever again. And they never have. Big Hero 6. This movie does everything in its power to make you think that the villain is this guy. Wait, didn't I already do that joke? Anyway, turns out it's this guy. You could have seen this coming. I think what annoys me about this twist villain is the fact that the movie seems so smart about the this guy. There's literally a scene where TJ Miller says, this guy is obviously the mysterious masked villain that we're fighting. Like, I get it, guys. time. And then was this other guy, and wow, I'm shocked.
Bet you didn't expect him to be the bad guy. Johnson Smith.
Really cool.
He's the CEO of Johnson.
Yeah, that's really cool. What I didn't see coming were his motivations, which were kind of interesting, but they kind of fell apart because his plan was so dumb.
You took everything from me when you sent Abigail into that machine. Now I'm taking everything from you.
Wow, that's really stupid. I get that you want to kill him, but this is a pretty nonsensical and amateur way of doing it. Also, just like Hans, and unlike these people, this guy goes from normal dude to horrible murderer man who doesn't care about the consequences of his evil actions.
Is this what Abigail would have wanted? Abigail is gone.
As if he has a reason to harm other people besides the guy who harmed him.
Tadashi, just let him die.
Give me the mask, hero.
He went in there to save you.
That was his mistake.
What the fuck, dude? He was like your prize student. Why do you have no concern over his death that you caused? Oh yeah, you're a one-dimensional villain in a kid's movie who isn't allowed to be a real human being with remorse for his actions.
That was his mistake.
Oh, boo yourselves! I'm Garrett Bobby Ferguson.
You know, Waternoose actually felt bad for Mike and Sully. He didn't just say, lol, fuck them, I don't care.
Because of you, I had to banish my top scarer.
With this machine, we won't need scarers. Besides, someone's got to be there.
Sullivan was twice the scarer you will ever be.
And I know Charles Muntz tried to murder an innocent kid, but that dude was trapped in the jungle for 70 years with a bunch of dogs. What's your excuse to be an evil murder man? Oh, boo-hoo, my daughter is dead. Well, I don't care if it's mean. Everybody's got dead people. That's no excuse to be a fucking dick. Wow, that was the most emotion I've ever felt over Big Hero 6. I don't even really like this movie. I've only seen it like once, and I had that much to say about the villain. Let's move on to Zootopia. This villain is so bad, you guys. So Hans was revealed to be evil in like what, the last 15 minutes? Well, let's do the last 10 instead. The fucking Sheep is like the most forgettable villain in Disney history. I actually don't remember her name, and I don't even want to look it up. I get her motivation, mostly because they were explained to me in the most obvious awkward way.
So that's it. Prey fears Predator and you stay in power?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I get what they were going for. The meek little sheep turns out to be the biggest predator of all. Don't judge people by appearance, blah, 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 white people metaphor. But the thing is, not only is the sheep not threatening in the slightest, but there is no indication that she could possibly be evil. There's no sense that she resents her position as a beleaguered assistant mayor to J.K. Simmons. She just acts overworked and tired, but bubbly and helpful whenever she's talking to Judy. I guess she's just acting like Han. And to be fair, we don't get a scene of her alone where she smiles to herself, which translates as, I can't wait to fucking drug all the predators in Zootopia and create a race war. But even so, it just really feels like they pulled her villainy-ness out of their ass with this one. And guess what? Going in, I predicted she would be the villain. I knew the lion and the police chief would be obvious red herrings, and I figured she was the perfect character for Disney to pin it all on. It's amazing how Disney tries to be less predictable and ends up more predictable. And yeah, unlike Wally and Up, you definitely can't take the villain out of this story if you want it to work. But here's what you do. You reveal her as the villain a little earlier so she can leave an impression and maybe be threatening, probably not really. Basically do what Coco did. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, you guys want to know why I love Moana so much? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the big one is that there's no twist villain. Hallelujah! There is a twist related to the villain, kind of like King Candy, but it's not like a character is established and then they come back later and boom, they no. The evil lava monster turns out to be the good guy, corrupted without her heart. That's a really organic, simple twist that works wonders. After 3 movies of trying to doubt every character around that, he finally made a refreshing, simple story. Just focus on the heroes and their journey. But this movie does have a traditional Disney villain, and I know you guys want me to talk about him. So I will. The captain of the Sakamura. Oh, this coconut guy is such a badass, awesome villain. Definitely one of the greatest Disney villains ever made. Okay, I can't keep this up for any longer. I need to talk about Tamatoa. I'm going to explode. The best thing about Tamatoa is that the twist was that he wasn't in the trailer. His existence This was a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one. However, he doesn't really fit with the theme of this video, so maybe I'll make an hour-long analysis about him. Honestly, kind of surprising. At the time I released this video, Moana is the most recent Disney animated movie to come out, with Wreck-It Ralph 2 coming in a few months. And because I can't pick out any discernible plot from the trailers, I'm assuming this lady will be the villain because she doesn't think Ralph is trending correctly or something like that.
You're not wrong.
I really want this movie to be good, but I don't think it's gonna happen, guys. This looks so bad, I want to die. So what have we learned so far? Pixar incorporates twists into their movies organically. They set them up ahead of time, they give the villains clear motivations, and they also give them a decent amount of time to be evil. Or they have another villain covering the evil quota for the first 2/3 of a movie. Disney, meanwhile, seems more concerned with shoving a twist villain into the movie without considering logic or character motivation. Here's the tier list. Modern Disney villains. Pixar villains. Super Pixar villains. Classic Disney villains. Super classic Disney villains. And then at the top, we have Tamato is here. You grab Tamato to the Revenge of the Shiny Face. Oh, wait, there's a few more Pixar villains to talk about. Has Pixar kept up their solid streak, or have they succumbed to Disney fever? Let's go find out. Come along. First of all, even though I ragged on modern Disney villains, I still think these 3 movies are good. Scratch that. These 2 are good. Big Hero 6 is whatever.
That was his mistake.
But the thing is, Disney has definitely been more consistently good this decade than Pixar. I don't know what the hell happened to this company that threw them off their game so much. If there was a movie that was so horrendous it tainted the company for the entire decade or something, let me know. I honestly have no idea. But yeah, this has definitely been a hit or miss decade for Pixar. But never mind all that. How are the villains? Well, for starters, Inside Out and Finding Dory do something really novel by not really having villains and still getting good, compelling drama out of their stories. I don't give a fuck. I will defend Finding Dory until the day I die. But then there's The Good Dinosaur. In my opinion, the single worst Pixar movie whose existence I will actually acknowledge. There's like 2 good scenes in this movie, and one of them is when this cult leader Pterodactyl eats a fucking squirrel thing in the most horrific manner possible. It's amazing. But then after a brief fight scene where he stops and goes away, he just comes back at the end in the laziest way possible. They just shoved him into the finale because they needed a finale. And since he was introduced as a nice guy, I guess that makes him a twist villain. Yeah. Okay, so now the tier list looks like this. Fortunately, after getting all that shit out of their system, Pixar remembered how to make a good twist villain with Coco. Ernesto de la Cruz works because given Pixar's tendency to not have a villain in some movies, I expected this movie to follow suit. It didn't need a traditional villain. The conflict between Miguel and his family was strong enough to carry the narrative, I thought. But this guy is evil anyway, and even though it's another third-act surprise, it really works for a few reasons. First, this guy's evil plan is basically already done and behind him. He poisoned Hector to steal his songs and become famous when Hector wanted to take them and return to his family. He's greedy, ambitious, and self-absorbed. Got it. Plus, even though it wasn't his intention, the impact of his evil plan is heartbreaking. Hector never got to return home, and as a result, his family hated him and eventually forgot him. This leads to Hector nearing his final death, lonely and forgotten, while Ernesto soaks up all the praise he can in the afterlife. Everything evil that Ernesto does in the present is in line with a single motivation: to cover up the evidence that he murdered his partner and stole his songs. Just like how Muntz's actions are all in line with his get the bird motivation, or Stinky Pete's get to Japan motivation. Again, compare this to the Big Hero 6 villain. How does setting a school on fire and killing innocent people bring your daughter back? If you need the nanobots, just steal them without starting a fire, or ask to borrow them because everybody likes and trusts you. Anyway, Ernesto is a good twist villain. His motivations line up, and while he doesn't have a lot of time to be evil, he at least gets more than one scene. Plus, he's pretty damn scary.
Bye, good dialogue. Look.
Would you look at that? Aside from this abortion, Pixar hasn't made a bad twist villain yet.
Screen slider.
Oh no! I touched upon this briefly in my incredibly controversial review of Incredibles 2. But the villain villain in this movie is so illogical. She wants to keep superheroes legal in order to make humanity less dependent on them. But, newsflash, supers have been illegal for 15 years. You actively help your brother make them legal again, and then you decide to make supers attack everyone. You don't make any sense. Furthermore, why does this movie need a twist? It's a superhero movie. The villain could be anyone. The screenslaver could be some guy. It doesn't have to be a character we already know. Oh wait, I guess it is some guy. It's the Pizza Man. Which I guess is the only ones that don't have a pizza plant. That's actually a better twist than what this movie has. Now, look, Evelyn isn't as bad of a twist villain as Phoebe. They cleverly foreshadow her nefarious nature with some really good dialogue scenes between her and Elastigirl. She may be a violent murder lady, but at least she won't let her brother die. And overall, I like her philosophy about society needing to stop being controlled by supers. It just doesn't make any sense given the state the world is in when she's enacting her plan. And yeah, she definitely doesn't have the same stage presence as Syndrome. She's just a legend. It would have made much more logical sense. The Screenslaver was just a prop in order to give Elastigirl plenty of hero moments to shine. It would be immoral, but fit in line with the goal of bringing heroes back. Yeah, it would be kind of predictable, but it would make sense at least. I can safely say that I didn't see the villain's plan coming, but that doesn't make it a good twist. A good twist needs to fit into the story organically and operate within the logic of the plot and the universe. This twist is so baffling that I can't bring myself to say it's good. And what the fuck is with that little girl? Are you in on it too? Okay, I know from the comments on the last video that she was hypnotized by the Screenslaver. And I know now that the fire alarm is pulled in that one building. And I know that I'm an SJW libtard cup. Thank you all so much for telling me these things. I think I should make it clear that I don't hate this movie, and I do like quite a bit about it. As I said, the dialogue is excellent. Violet and Jack are great characters now. I love Jack bonding with Edna. That one scene with Elastigirl on the motorcycle is great, and I feel bad for not mentioning that. The fight with Screenslaver was cool, unless you have epilepsy, I'm so sorry. I like how the kids are basically on their own once all the adults are hypnotized. I like the scene where Mr. Incredible fights Hypno Helen. I like the scene where Frozone gets hypnotized and he just fucking roars at them. Dude, I'd be shitting my pants if I saw this movie as a kid. This movie's really great from that perspective. I think that's a good way to close things out. My opinion on Incredibles 2 is in black and white. I don't hate the movie. I think it has a lot of good elements, even if I don't consider the overall product to be that great. And that's the thing. Movies are more than the sum of their parts. It doesn't matter if it's villain is utopia. The movie is still fun, exciting, dramatic, even powerful. One minor element of a movie doesn't kill the overall experience. Same with Frozen. It's got a lot of good elements in it, and it's okay if the Han stuff wasn't executed that well, because he was clearly being possessed by the rock trolls. I'm calling it. They enslaved him. And Big Hero 6 is a movie. At the end of the day, we just have to accept that even though anyone can watch and enjoy these movies, they are primarily made for kids. So we as adults sometimes have to accept elements that might be seen as predictable. Kids these days are probably going into these movies and having their minds blown by all the twists and turns. Without plot holes, we as adults enjoy the parts we enjoy. The heartfelt, poignant, powerful moments. The fun, whimsical, breathtaking moments. The moments we relate to as human beings. The moments we go to see movies for. I'm hard on these two studios because I love them and I want to see them succeed. They made movies that stand the test of time, movies that defined my childhood and continue to define my adulthood. They may be running this whole twist thing into the ground, but at the end of the day, even if I don't love every single movie, I can still admire the magical moments that make every single one of these movies special. Except Good Dinosaur, that one can go burn in hell.
That was his mistake.
Funding for Shaperillis is provided by Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Well, you know what they say. Whenever someone makes a DreamWorks movie ranking, a Pixar ranking, actually, no one has ever said that. But oh well, I'm ranking the Pixar movies. I have very conflicting feelings on Pixar as well. Generally, the output is better than most animation studios, but this unfortunately makes their slip-ups all the more compared to the Plus, it's a little more upsetting in Pixar's case because you can pinpoint the exact moment in their history where they lost their edge and started delivering more products than good ones. Kind of like a long-running show. But that doesn't mean they're out of the game. Pixar is still fully just like they did in the old. Who wouldn't? Now it's finally time to look at every single film in this good and the opposite of good and see how I'd rank them all. Let's jump right in. I mean, what the heck do you want me to say? This is one of the worst sequels of all time and one of the worst animated movies I've ever had the displeasure of. Also by Illumination. There's enough to talk about here to fill up 3 whole cinematic disaster reviews, but honestly, what is the point? You know exactly what's wrong with this film. If you accept the insane premise that destroys every good aspect the original film had going for it, you're stuck with the most frustratingly stupid story Pixar has ever seen. It is astounding how bad at their job. Imagine a bug but Flick doesn't realize he hired circus bugs even after they tell him they're from the circus multiple times, and you basically have Cars 2. Everyone in this movie is a complete idiot, to the point where it's not an exaggeration to call Mater the smartest character. As you can imagine, this makes for a completely intolerable viewing experience. Like, by intolerable, I mean this movie is worse than Turbo. Yeah, Pixar has made something worse than the worst DreamWorks movies. It's like they were actively trying to make a bad movie. Like, there's 2 other Pixar cinematic movies I'll talk about very quickly, but with those movies, they had incredibly troubled production histories that caused them to turn out. They were failed but earnest attempts to make a movie. But this? No. I refuse to believe that there was ever any potential for this movie. It's impossible. I would legitimately rather rewatch Minions than this pile of shit. That's a movie that clearly had a separate into it that manages to be more mature, more entertaining, and less infuriating than this Pixar movie. I am not accepting. Cars 2 is a movie for kids and absolutely no one else. Do I not sound angry enough? Well, that's because I straight up don't care. I don't give a shit about Cars, and while this movie permanently dented Pixar's morale and sent them on a decade-long losing streak, it's not like it ruined a franchise I was emotionally invested in. This is a terrible idea for a bad franchise, and this movie is the exact legacy that John Lasseter deserves. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in Shaperillis ranking history, we have a 2-way tie. The Raiders and the Good Dinosaur are pretty much equally awful, and after the like comes the they both have advantages. For example, Raid has a story. You know, that's something you can't really say about Good Dinosaur. But on the other hand, Good Dinosaur doesn't have a completely that's not saying much. Seriously, I cannot stress enough how equally I dislike these 2 movies. I guess the most efficient way to break the tie is to ask whether I would rather be absolutely infuriated or bored out of my mind to no ends. Which, let's talk about these movies first. Both of them were the products of troubled productions, but Brave had far more insidious than Good Dinosaur. There's this excellent video by Licorice, I think, that I promoted a while back. It details everything that's wrong with this movie in excruciating detail, as well as its troubled development. They fired the original director, Brendan Chapman, who, by the way, directed this one movie, given yeah, they fired her. Their first and currently only female director, but she wasn't falling in line with known degenerate John Lasseter. So they fired her and replaced her with this other guy who had no idea what the point of the story was.
Gender has nothing to do with this movie.
What the f- fuck are you talking about? There are plenty of stories where the main character's gender doesn't matter, but a story about a princess who's worried about getting married and losing her independence in a medieval kingdom is absolutely a gender story, you dipshit. Whatever. Everything I said in my notes, Merida is still the worst Disney princess and Pixar protagonist. The bear twist is still the dumbest shit imaginable. There's no intrigue, there's no good humor, there's no compelling storytelling. It's as bad as I remember. The whole time I rewatched it, I just wish I was watching it. In fact, yeah, I'll probably just do that the next time I get it. And I should also it's better than Cars 2. Well, Rise of Skywalker it is. And now for the Good Dinosaur, the final installment of the Pixar movies that are worse than Ralph Breaks the Internet trilogy. Like I said, it's not inherently infuriating. Arlo is a bland, awful His dog boy Spot is a less interesting version of Food, but he's not awful either. They are perfectly serviceable protagonists that just happen to be stuck in a tech demo instead of a movie. Because that's all this movie is, a tech demo for amazing landscape. There's no plot. What is the plot? Arlo's dad dies because Lion King. But it's not like he died because of a malicious plot. No, it's because he went out hunting with his son in the middle of a fucking biblical storm. And he gets swept up by a water slide. Oops! Something that doesn't even kill Arlo later on in the movie. So really, this is the dumbest thing ever. I laughed out loud when he died. It adds nothing to the movie since Arlo is separated from the rest of his family 3 minutes later. The story would not change if you took out this supposedly vague emotional, which is emblematic of this movie's god-awful writing. The rest of the movie is a boring series of vignettes, unmemorable characters, and no structure whatsoever. I could watch a movie with a notoriously troubled production like Solo, and not really tell the production was troubled, since the movie at least feels cohesive. But Good Dinosaur just screams troubled production in your face over and over and over and over and over. There's so much gratuitous violence in this baby movie, and you just have to ask, who were they making this for? And obviously, the worst thing about this movie is how thoroughly it wastes its premise on such a humans and dinosaurs coexisting, and this is what you do? You make the human a dog? No reasons for the story to be about dinosaurs? Hey! So yeah, it's a and utter mess, very little to enjoy. And I think after bad-mouthing it in so many videos now, I should probably give it its own cinematic disaster. I have a lot to say. But the question for now is, which is worse? Not So Brave or The Bad Dinosaur? I mean, I guess I could judge them by which one had the better scene. I liked the first 10 minutes of Brave enough, and the cult leader pterodactyl eating a squirrel alive was funny. But both of these movies have one great scene each in them. In Brave, we have that amazing moment where Merida defies her mother and shoots an arrow straight through another arrow. Badass. And in The Good Dinosaur, there's actually this really touching scene where Arlo and Dogboy tell each other what happened to their families without any words. Just these little stick people. These two scenes manage to capture the magic of Pixar, but a fleeting moment, which is more than that fucking abomination Cars 2 could ever dream of doing. And if I had to pick the better moments, probably the scene in Good Dinosaur. There you go, that's my official ranking. Good Dinosaur is a smidge higher. I might change my mind next week, but that's where I'm at right now. Okay, bye!
Alright, you cluckers!
I'd like to thank everyone in Cartown for helping me get all the things I needed.
Cars sure is a movie. I don't like it. I'm sure you've heard all this before, but Cars is such a bizarre blip in quality for the studio that it defies all logic. I mean, this movie came out between The Incredibles and Ratatouille, so it's not a favorable comparison in either direction. On my latest rewatch, I clicked with a couple of scenes, like when Sally talks about how the town used to be and that sad song plays, or the stuff with Doc Hudson's backstory. These are the moments where everything starts to come together, and you remember that this is, in fact, a Pixar movie. I genuinely forgot for the first hour or so, because this movie is not funny or funny or intelligent.
Njan back, guys.
75% of its normal. The race scenes are cool, Lightning's character arc is moderately okay, and the ending is pretty wholesome. But for the most part, we're just toiling away in hillbilly hell, so frankly annoying. I don't like Mater. He has a good line once every 15 attempts, and that's about it. The rest of this town doesn't fare much better. There's a ton of filler and annoying moments. The villain is literally just Randall again, but without the wit or threatening presence. I'm sorry, I take that back. I love the chick pics. You're the best. Overall, it was kind of a chore to get through this movie that I've disliked since childhood and didn't ever want to see again. But honestly, I'm glad I did, because there's enough good stuff here to make it semi-worthwhile. Even though now I'm never watching it again. I swear. Onward still kind of blows, not gonna lie. I reviewed it back when it came out, and not much has changed upon rewatch. The most aggravating thing about this movie is that it would have been significantly better if the Barley character was voiced by anyone. Literally anyone other than Chris Pratt. Well, I guess that's not true. It could have been worse. He could have been voiced by James Corden.
Let's roll! Bye, Felicia.
Well, whatever. It's still pretty bad how it is now. There's just this smugness to his voice. This obnoxious...
Syndicate's gonna regret
so
letting
I like Tom Holland's performance and character enough. They pair him with this smug-ass Star-Lord, Dino Wrangler asshole, and I just can't get emotionally invested. I just can't. I tried picturing this character with Jack Black's voice, and it was a million times better.
Hey, how's it going?
Obviously, the way Barley is written would also need to be tweaked, and maybe the idea that he's Ian's true father figure should have been built up more if the movie wanted that to be its focus. But overall, yeah, voice acting kind of sinks this character. It doesn't feel genuine. I don't feel any emotions for these brothers or this stupid-ass van or even the dad legs. It's just too weird of a concept to get invested in. Speaking of concepts, the idea of a fantasy world that gradually forgot about magic and needs to rediscover it is cool, but they don't do anything interesting with it. Every character they come across that stopped inventing or stopped 5 minutes of interaction. There's a handful of scenes that work, like the crux of the final battle and emotional resolution especially are really, really strong. I feel like it almost made up for the rest of the movie to be honest, and it's really the only reason I have it ranked next to this. Lastly, while I'm glad it got people like this movie, I hated getting comments like, you obviously never had a brother. If you did, you would actually like the movie. Shut up. I went to see this with my brother and we both didn't like it. Like, I relate to Ian enough. Not mean I have to like the movie. Relating to a movie and seeing myself does not automatically make it good. Lady Bird is not one of my favorite movies just because it's immensely relatable to my life, but because it's got incredible writing, acting, pacing, and editing on top of that. If you love Onward because it's immensely relatable to your own life, that is awesome. I'm so happy it exists for that reason alone. But I don't rate a movie's quality because of its relatability. And this is not the last time I will heavily relate to a Pixar movie. That said, let's keep going, shall we?
The screen slider interrupts this program, warning.
Well, only average friend. Honestly, my original review of this movie is pretty but for the most part, this movie pisses me off. It's genuinely one of the most disappointing animated films ever made. That might sound melodramatic, but when you consider Brad Bird's track record in the realm of animation, and you consider how we waited 14 years for a follow-up to the original movie, it's hard not to feel a little ripped off by the final product here. Because that's what Incredibles 2 is. A product. A product that lost an entire year of production because the higher up such a first draft of a script that is kinda comical. Almost nothing involving Bob and the kids is actually important to the overall story. It's just a collection of filler plot lines you would find in an Incredibles TV show. Most of it is decently charming and funny, but it feels like such a waste of time. That's what the entire character is. I can't do my magic. And have nothing else going on. Violet is why can't they go on a date and she tries to act normal and hide her superpowers? But then she secretly uses them in some way to make the date go better. I don't know, do something like what the Tale of Zuko did. Do more interesting things with these characters. Bob was honestly really unlikable in this movie. Like, he actively resented her. He never has a moment where he apologizes to her or comes to terms with his disappointment at not doing hero work. They just dropped this plotline entirely when we get to the final act, so they basically made him unlikable for no reason. Cool. Jackson is funny. But again, none of this ever becomes plot relevant. It's just more filler, and a movie is absolutely loaded with it. The Elastigirl plotline has great action sequences. So predictable. Her ideology isn't well fleshed out at all. Very unmemorable antagonists. The brothers eccentric personality. If he was more like Varric, that would have been neat and memorable, but ultimately he's just a forgettable red herring. The other superheroes suck. They have no personality and their designs flow. In fact, that's another thing about this movie. I honestly hate the new characters. They just don't look good in his animation style. Usually Brad Bird has amazing expressive character design in his animated movies, but the NPCs just look awful. Even old characters like Bob look huge. Like, pull the detail back, guys. Good. Another aspect of the visual design they really down was the 50s aesthetic. Like, it's cool. Aesthetic of the first film that it feels off. I mean, this movie is supposed to take place immediately after the original, but you could honestly mistake the original for taking place in the modern day. I know I did as a kid. This movie, by contrast, was so aggressively the first film anymore. And also, why was Void set up as someone important only to not be important? I thought for sure they were building up to her getting freed by Violet and Void, and the two of them were that would be a great natural dynamic, and it would be a good payoff for establishing Void as a character. But no, just give me my superhero lesbians already, Pixar. What are you waiting for? Look, overall, this is a fine enough one of the Pixar films. The characters just aren't the same. A ton of people got mad at me for not liking it that much when it first came out, but now, 2 years later, it's abundantly clear how good of an impression this movie left. It finally came out, and now no one talks about it, and that's kinda sad. Monsters University is weird because I feel like it's simultaneously underrated and not really that great at the same time. Like, for a movie that has no reason, it probably turned out pretty decent, and I don't mind it. What are the odds? This is the most I've thought about Solo all year. Yeah, it's a nice beautiful that develops Mike and Sully's relationship pretty well. I like how they don't get along and feel the need to one-up each other. Plus, I like how Randall starts out as Mike's friendly roomie. My relationships with former roommates and/or friends have definitely soured. I have no trouble believing that Randall and Mike hate each other to the extent. I just wish this movie didn't forget Randall's character, but just turned the dark side entirely off screen. So that's just all. Anyway, now that I've actually been to college, I appreciated the vibe this movie was going for. I think the time was right for Pixar to do a college movie, since the kids who grew up with the first Monsters Inc. were probably at an age where this new movie was relevant to them. It hits a little harder with me for that reason alone. Another aspect of this film that doesn't get enough credit is the additions to the world building. This movie shows us that there's a science to scaring kids, that there's a bunch of different techniques to utilize in certain situations, and that every monster has some sort of unique attribute that makes them scary in their own way. It's really fascinating stuff. I also love the message this movie portrays. It really cuts deep, and I relate to it immensely. I personally always wanted to perform in musicals, but I just didn't have the singing chops. I was never quite gonna be good enough, and that's okay, because I found purpose through other aspects of theater, such as writing and directing. Mike's journey in this movie is so similar to mine, and I found that really special. He wanted to be scary so badly, and he tried his hardest, but it didn't work out. And that's okay, because he found purpose in scaring through his impeccable coaching, helping Sully achieve maximum scariness and resulting in one hell of a brilliant, emotionally charged final act. I'm so so happy this movie exists just for its message alone. It honestly really helped me out at a time in my life when I needed it. But the movie is still not great, I'm sorry to say. For some reason, I relate to Dan Scanlon Pixar movies a lot, and yet still find them mediocre. I don't know why that is. It just is. But yeah, once we get to the whole Scare Games plot, I just completely lose interest, and that's a huge chunk of the film. So much stupid shit happens in this huge chunk. These unmemorable side characters get to be unmemorable. Mike kind of gets annoyingly arrogant for a while. This Dean appears to have no life outside of tormenting Mike and Sully. Like, oh my god, get over yourself. If you're mad they broke your scream can, you should have put it in a glass case, dipshit. The professor appears to get some sort of weird boner for Sully. And honestly, I just kind of don't buy the whole Mike is a you're going for. I'd be pretty scared if this one-eyed gremlin came into my cabin in the middle of the night. And why is he the only member of this team that gets singled out? The purple guy isn't scary. He looks like a goofy-ass Muppet. I would laugh out loud if he attempted to scare me, but you don't see anyone calling him out for dragging the team down. Also, boo! The Abominable Snowman cameo sucks. Boo! Honestly, this is the worst retcon to me than the 4th grade line from the original film. You could have had the snowman in the movie, just have him interact with literally any other characters besides Mike and Sully. Why was that hard? This movie totally could have been great and has some great underrated stuff in it, but a lot of that stuff does get buried in an avalanche of mediocrity. The first act is solid, the third act is great despite some problems. The second act is just a slog to get through. I'll rewatch it every few years or so, but I usually just rewatch the good stuff. It's okay. Cars 3 is easily the best one. Amazing how Pixar managed to get something of quality out of this franchise, and all they had to do was wrench it from John Lasseter's filthy, grimy paws. Now, don't get me wrong, Cars 3 is not that good. It's just decent. But decent is a miracle for a franchise so conceptually broken. Speaking of conceptually broken, yes, everyone referring to Lightning as an old man when he looks and sounds just as young as he did in the first movie is confusing as shit. I don't like it. Some scenes are still really dumb, like this weird-ass training montage. The villain is just Chick Hicks again, but boring. You can't compete with Kachiga! You just can't. But what makes this movie kinda sorta work is the fact that it ditches Radiation Stinks, the worst thing about the first movie, and it ditches literally every single thing that happened in Cars 2. That's hysterical, and it kind of goes to show how this is the real sequel to the original Cars. Cars 2 was basically just a feature-length Mater's Tall Tale spin-off that shouldn't have even bothered with including racing in this plot. But anyway, yeah, this one's all about the racing. Like, not throwing away your shot. Damn it, it's kind of effective. I think this movie's portrayal of imposter syndrome and finding a new purpose in something you love is done even more effectively than it was in Monsters University. I like this new yellow car that Lightning McQueen trains with. I like her sad backstory, and I like how she gets a chance to prove herself after thinking her opportunity had come and gone. I like Lightning coming to terms with his age and finding new purpose in training someone else, just like Doc did with him. I like the emphasis on Doc in general and the legacy he left behind him. And overall, this movie has a bit of that but I appreciate the best Pixar. Not that this is anywhere near one of the best Pixar movies, but it's still not afraid to take its time and focus on the characters and be a surprisingly mature conclusion to this, let's be honest, duology. Some of it is boring, some of it is I guess it's kind of inescapable when talking about Cars, but for the most part, I had a decent time revisiting it. I don't think I made some I'm kind of glad after rewatching it for the first time in ages, I've come to realize that this movie stuff that sucks about this movie really sucks. It's so overindulgent with the whole liar plotline, and it makes no sense whatsoever. This whole thing you can't hire them without realizing you were and it's It's a shame so much of the movie's plot hinges on this dumb shit. Honestly, though, aside from that, this movie is just really charming. Like, surprisingly so. The environments are really impressive considering how early on in Pixar's life this movie was. The characters are mostly endearing and funny. The action sequences and climax are surprisingly amazing. Hopper is such a great villain who almost seems a little too great for this movie, honestly. He probably elevates the score a bit because of what a good threat he poses. Randy Newman's score is a huge improvement over his already good Toy Story score, and yeah, overall this was just a really fun movie to revisit. It's not as thematically rich or compelling as later Pixar movies, which is probably why. Blue Sky is a studio that exists. Or, you know, it did. I've gotten a lot of requests to take a look at this studio in particular, and since they only made 13 films, I figured it would be easy to make a video on them out of respect. Respect for the dead? Yeah, I'm gonna be upfront. If you're a die-hard fan of this studio and its output, I don't think this is the video for you. Because I have practically no reverence for Blue Sky Studios, and I do not miss them now that they've been shut down by Disney as part of the Fox merger. It's not like I hate Blue Sky or anything. I just don't have any strong opinions about them or anything they've made, be it positive or negative, except Big Weld. The movie at the bottom of this list isn't something I vitriolically hate, nor is the movie at the top of the list something I genuinely love. As such, I am completely indifferent to the loss of this studio. The only thing I remotely feel bad about, besides the loss of Big Weld, is the fact that a group of undeniably talented animators are now out of a job. I sincerely hope they can find more work, and Disney can go f themselves for firing them. And don't get me wrong, being indifferent to Blue Sky's closure doesn't mean I actively wanted them to go out of business. I mean, they were harmless, releasing fine but forgettable movies without much of a positive impact on pop culture, besides making Big Weld. But it wasn't an aggressively negative impact like that of Illumination. They just kind of did their own thing in the corner, and I just kind of ignored them. I do this for those who came before. It's not like I had to get force-fed the mini sloths from Ice Age 2 in the same way the minions poisoned so much of what I hold dear. So whatever, let's talk about Blue Sky and their aggressively mediocre lineup that I have no strong opinion. I did this for you, Big Weld, sweet prince.
Disappointment in the game of life.
Ice Age 5. Do you hear me? 5. They made 5 of these. DreamWorks didn't even make 5 of any of their franchises. I'm going to scratch. How does a studio only make 13 movies and 5 of them are Ice Age? What a sick joke! You'd be hard-pressed to find any animated franchise that's nearly as creatively bankrupt as this one. Especially if they make 5 movies, most of them make terrible. These studios are just filling in that story, desperately trying to prolong the story, has absolutely no business continuing whatsoever. The most offensively bad thing about Ice Age 5 is not any of its content, but just simply the facts that it exists at all. Because, like, there's nothing to talk about. It doesn't make me angry like your earwigs or your Cars 2. It's just so boring. All of these movies are about the characters taking a journey somewhere, making their way through dangerous set pieces, and eventually getting where they need to go and saving the day. Yay! In this one, Sprat finds a fucking UFO, which was technically set up as a background gag in the first Ice Age movie, which means they clearly planned this whole series out ahead of time. Oh my god, great work, Blue Sky! Thanks for tying the entire Ice Age saga together by doing this. Love the return. Kind of nice, and he's pretty epic, but he also kind of drives the entire plot, leading the group and coming together. There's also these good dinosaur-ass villains who are chasing him and trying to prevent him from preventing the apocalypse because they're stupid. So the villains only have beef with him, and he's I'm out of energy ammo. So what does that mean the other characters get to do? Oh, nothing. Thanks for asking. Diego and his girlfriend, whose name I don't know, are upset that kids are scared of them. There is one scene at the beginning to establish this, and then it's never brought up again until the end of the movie, where the kids are suddenly not scared of them because they help save the world. Wow, what a great and well-developed plot line. Honestly, I completely forgot the Lady Tiger was even in this movie until I saw her again at the end and was like, oh yeah, she exists. Cool. Sid does nothing until they get to this magic place with a bunch of animals who are old, but use magic power crystals to be young. And the lady sloth likes him, but then he accidentally ruins the crystals and turns them all old. And the voice actors don't even try to sound old, they just have the exact same voices. Cool, good job. Manny is obnoxious and out of character because he doesn't like his daughter's fiance, which is fun because that means we got even more cliches. My favorite! It truly is amazing how they do every cliche imaginable with the daughter characters. Like, I think she deserves a medal for the most cliche character of all time. Even the scratch shit is just tired and boring. Ice Age can go f*** off. They took a relatively grounded and laid-back first film and turned it into this obnoxious farce of a franchise. I am so burnt out from watching these movies that I never want to see any of them again. Fortunately, this is a franchise that has had practically zero cultural impact, despite having 5 movies that raked in billions of dollars at the box office. Nobody talks about Ice Age except when they say how much they want to kill the baby for some reason. No one gives a shit about these movies, and I couldn't be happier about that. Just put these animals out of their misery already. They deserve to go extinct. Thank you, bye. Also, don't even come at me in the comments saying I missed the Buck Wild movie. That wasn't Blue Sky. They're dead now. That was some other shitty studio. I don't have to watch it. Fuck you.
This is the most obnoxious thing I've ever experienced in my life.
One day, without any prompting, William randomly showed up to my house, gave me the Blu-ray for Epic, then left.
Well.
I had never seen
Enemy
Epic,
here.
nor did I want to, so I had practically no use for this thing. Though we did put it in the back of the comments.
There's an enemy over there.
Well, the good news is, thanks to this ranking, I finally have a use for this thing. Let's pop it in and give it a watch.
2 hours later.
Recharging my shields.
What the hell was that? You know, I've heard a ton of people say that Epic gives them Studio Ghibli vibes. And you know what? After watching it, they're totally right. This was just like... There's just so little to talk about. The main character, dumbass, and all the other characters are really boring. There's a slug and a snail who serve as cringe-worthy, terrible comic relief. I don't remember anyone's names. The stakes feel extremely low, mainly because of how vague and poorly elaborated on the world building is. They also need to protect this pod, except at one point they leave it with the incompetent comic relief slug and snail without any supervision whatsoever in the middle of this crowded party where it could easily be stolen. And then it is. What could be more important to this one serious dude than personally guarding the pod that was the last remnant of his dead lover Beyonce? What was he thinking? Who gives a shit? Why is this movie even called Epic when nothing epic happens in it? I guess it's nice that Blue Sky tried something wildly different from their usual output. Like, this is a lot more serious and has some pretty unique character designs and a new art style that's actually not too bad. But none of these things can save the fact that this is the most generic trite they could have possibly put out. Once again, not infuriating, but an experience I got nothing out of whatsoever. Fuck you, William. I'm gonna leave a Blu-ray copy of The Good Dinosaur in your mailbox when I get a chance.
It seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
Ice Age 4. This is the first one of these movies that absolutely should not have been made. You could argue the second and third ones shouldn't have been made as well, but at least they come together with the first one to form a perfectly mediocre trilogy. There is no reason to continue past the end of the third one, and it shows.
What's up, my man?
In this wacky and completely necessary new adventure, Scrat becomes God himself and begins terraforming the entire planet. Also, Manny is Jesus, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what this line implies.
When exactly will I be allowed to hang out with boys?
When I'm dead. Plus 3 days. Just to make sure I'm dead.
His daughter is a teenager now, which is cool because that means they can do literally every single teenage cliche ever in one movie. They deadass have an exchange that's just 10 different cliche lines one after the other. How nice. There's an inexplicable Josh Gad mole that comes out of nowhere and is considered important by the end for some reason. He does not return for the 5th movie, so what does that tell you? There's a bunch of pirates, and I guess the Peter Dinklage monkey is like the first passable villain in the franchise. Like, he's mildly entertaining and has a surprisingly decent villain song and kind of a cool fight towards the end. I don't know, I was kind of dozing off at that point, so. I like when Scrag gets seduced by the nuts, because that was funny. I like how they introduce a female tiger for Diego to be in love with, because they ran out of things to do with him, so they just figured, oh, we gotta throw him in a passionless, chemistry-less, boring-ass hetero romance. Why not?
Do it, hetero.
Sid's grandma shows up, because I guess they just wanted Wanda Sykes in the movie, so they just invented a character for her to play. Drake and Nicki Minaj are in this movie. Yeah, seriously. I didn't bother looking up who they played, and I couldn't really tell, because who gives a shit? How come Nick Frost is in this one when Simon Pegg isn't? I feel like that's illegal. I also feel like Manny was way too much of a jovial dumbass in this one. He's so far away from his original personality at this point that it would be funny if I had any sort of investment in him as a character, but I don't anymore. This movie is genuinely
Wait,
intolerable
copyrighted
and
music go.
extremely boring at the same time. I'm not even sure what else I can possibly talk about at this point. It's just such a nothing installment in an increasingly nothing franchise made by a somewhat nothing studio. There aren't even nearly as many penis jokes in this one as there are in the third one, so what's the point? Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry.
Horton hears domestic violence in the next apartment and doesn't call 911.
You know what's weird? I don't remember Horton Hears a Who being this bad. Everyone always calls this the best Dr. Seuss film adaptation. And the sad thing is, that's probably true. It's also like a 4 out of 10 movie. Dude, this was kind of painful. Like, Jim Carrey and Steve Carell both were shockingly unfunny and whatever in this. They straight up invented a pointless new character for Seth Rogen to play that could have been removed from the film entirely with nothing changing. This vulture villain is tasked with stealing Horton's clover, and he says he's gonna eat it. But then he doesn't eat it when he has it. He just dropped it in the big clover field. Why did he not just eat it like he said he would? Why is there so much boring slapstick filler in both the jungle and Whoville? Why set up this council in Whoville who doesn't believe the mayor that Horton exists if you don't have a scene where they realize they're wrong? Why is the mayor's son emo in this? And why is he voiced by Jesse McCartney? He has like 5 lines in the whole movie. What was the point? He doesn't even sing! On the Dr. Seuss wiki, I found out that for some reason, it says that JoJo's singing line was delivered by Fletcher Sheridan, who also played Cy, the O'Hare delivery guy in the Lorax. Which is a good metaphor for how much I wish this movie was more like the Lorax. Just unabashedly terrible in every way instead of just being boring. Plus, the Lorax at least had Danny DeVito and funny Tumblr Sexy Man and actual decent songs. Why did they break out into a random pop song at the end of this movie? Why are there so many pop culture references? Why is there a cringeworthy anime sequence in the middle of this movie? Actually, I shouldn't complain. That was my favorite part of the whole thing. That's what I wanted more of in this movie. Cringe. It was the only way to salvage it because clearly Dr. Seuss movies are not meant to be stretched into 90-minute films. They always gotta have terrible bullshit filler and pointless celebrities and ultimately be extremely boring and tedious. Then again, maybe I should just wait for because if this movie was released nowadays, good game.
Salute!
They filthy
There's only one piece of value I derive from this movie, and that is our Lord and Savior, Yummo Wickersham. Praise be to him. Yeah, I don't know why, but a few months ago, my friend I don't get it, but like, who am I to question memes? So yes, thank you, Yummo Wickersham, for blessing us by sticking a bajillion bananas in your mouth hole. Thank you for having approximately the same amount of lines as Jesse McCartney. Awesome! Top billion in this movie
Filthy
for the art, not the recognition. Thank you, Dan Fogler, for bringing the Simeon Saint to life. I would walk the length of the world to get Yummo back in my life. Please, Disney, let Blue Sky come back to deliver us one final swan song. The Yummo Wickersham origin story.
Thanks.
I need the jungle buff.
History of this glorious, magnificent creature. Okay, guys, I hope that was good. Now time to forget about it and go back to making garbage instead.
Attack!
Somehow garnered an Oscar nomination. One of only 2 full-time movies to do so, alongside Ice Age 1. It also garnered this nomination the same year as Lost Baby did. So yeah, no, respectfully means nothing. Ferdinand is ass. It's such a generic, boring children's movie filled with a ton of cliches, and it never once emotionally moved me, nor did it ever make me laugh. Ferdinand is a clumsy big guy who screws things up because he's clumsy, and he accidentally destroys an entire town. So now he's sent back to the Bull Ranch place that he grew up on and escaped from. And then he just kind of vibes there for an hour with these other generic
Cancel that!
But we got an epic out of nowhere dance off with German police. Guess what? They dabbed! Hey yo, best movie ever! Oscar nomination ahoy, baby! People were paid to animate this. Real live people. They brought this image into this world, and there's nothing as a society that we can do about it.
Look at what you've done! Now the animators are gonna have to draw all this fire!
Yeah, I thought thought this movie really stalled for most of its runtime, but honestly, there's this chase scene in the third act that was kind of fun and kind of got me invested. Plus, I like the scene where he actually does I'm never gonna think about this movie again, but it's comforting to know that the poor animators who brought this abomination into the world received ample compensation for the dark deeds they were required to perform.
What killed the dinosaurs?
Ice Age 3, Dawn of Who Gives a Shit. There are a lot of penis in this one. Well, like, a lot. It's the only
Good game!
Salute! There's no better example of pure action than watching the end of this movie and realizing, holy shit, I'm currently I can't believe he as a
love to see it!
Dinosaur mob comes together in his bag and I love it when a main character is completely stupid and in the wrong. Like not even partially
Thanks.
100%
Stay here.
Impressive. Hilariously nonchalant. Like, yeah, it's no big deal. He sees dinosaurs all the time, apparently.
Nice job.
Oh yeah, Diego's sad in this movie because he wants to leave the herd.
Attack! Attack!
Attack!
Attack!
Be around anymore. Oh my god, I don't give a shit. I forgot they were even having a baby. Which is at least something Shrek the Third attempted to explain. Very, very badly, but it was an attempt. Okay, this is not really well done. I like the fact that Weasel attack! Right in this segment, I think the place actually the climax is kind of cool. Rat fight. I don't know, it's kind of funny to see. Yeah, I think okay. It makes dinosaurs boring somehow, and they should have just ended Ice Age here. But of course they didn't. We were all put on this earth to suffer.
You're welcome.
Rio 1. Set
buff.
in the marvelous city. Land of sun and heat. This one's for all you Brazilian viewers out there, which my channel has a ton of for whatever reason. Love you guys. This movie makes your country look really cool, vibrant, and alive. And basically the exact opposite of what you guys say it's really like whenever you talk to us on the streams on Chris's channel. Yeah, this movie is kind of one big love letter to Brazil. And I think that's neat. There's a clear passion behind the animation and the direction. And that kind of makes up for the lack of interesting story or characters. But not... I don't know. This definitely isn't the worst animated movie out there, but it is really standard for the most part. I think Jesse Eisenberg was a really weird choice to play this macaw. Like, his voice acting isn't funny or charming. It's just kind of...
Good game!
Plus, he absolutely had no... Spoilers. And the problem is kind of exacerbated here because they mention sure he said to preserve their species thing even less. And they make even less sense as a romantic pairing. I have no idea what Mark Zuckerberg did to get Anne Hathaway to fall for him. She just kind of does at some point because this is an animated movie. We gotta have a hetero love. Gotta check off every box in the checklist. Thank you very much. Hell, we actually have 2 hetero loves because I forgot about these humans falling in love, which I guess makes more sense because they're both extreme bird lovers. But that's not actually why they fall in love. They fall in love because they see each other in sexy bird outfits during the last 20 minutes. That's cool. Very well written, very well developed romance. Thank you for that. And okay, let's get this one out. Everyone always tells me, ooh, you gotta talk about the main villain of Rio. He's voiced by Jermaine Clement, the Tomato Tomba guy. I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. I don't think he's doing that good a job as serviceable most of the time. He honestly sounds kind of bored. Like, you can feel the comedic passion when he's voicing Tamatoa, but in this movie, he doesn't really stand out, and it just feels like he's going through the motions. And his villain song sucks hard. Like, I'm sorry, I cringed so
What can
much
you do?
listening to this. The singing is fine, but the melody is unspecial, and the lyrics are...
Stay ill.
What a What a
Ugh. Also, just in general, I don't remember a single other thing this villain did outside of singing the song, and I just watched it. Hell, I don't remember anything about it. It was fine, but forgettable, which I guess I'll take over some of the other characters to do that.
Be careful.
If I have to talk about Ice Age for any longer, I'm going to have a meltdown. This one is fine.
Attack! Attack!
Good.
This new lady man.
Enemy ultimate incoming!
She's a possum. Yeah, she was raised by possums, so she genuinely believes that she is a brothers were actually twist villains who brainwashed them into believing she was their possum sister in order to take advantage of her protecting them. I'm just joking.
My blade
Or
is
am I?
on Ellen.
I don't know. All I know is this aspect
Okay.
of the plot is stupid.
You're
It doesn't
welcome.
take up the whole movie,
Good
thankfully.
game.
But of course,
Group up.
we also
Enemies
gotta
in the
have
right lane.
misunderstandings and arguing between them. Manny accidentally implies that he doesn't want to murder her.
My blade is on
He's doing
Ellen.
it for the good of the species to avoid extinction. Yeah, throughout the whole movie, everyone was talking about how they're trying to get extinct. And Manny and Ellie went to the last one. But then out of nowhere, at the very end,
Attack!
one of them show up.
Attack!
Who wants to be with her? And I feel like they'd be better. We got a 2-for-1 deal at any time. So we gotta have romance.
You're
I
welcome.
just like how all the other men essentially clap for them by tooting their horns. That's a terrible cliche I
welcome.
never get tired of. At one point, Sid gets kidnapped by a tribe of mini sloths, and at the age of 8, I distinctly remember feeling marketed to by this scene. Like, this is definitely a prototype minion situation. It has no bearing on the plot and could be removed without anything
My
changing.
blade
It
is
was
on
clearly
Ellen.
just here to push these mini sloths
Cancel
to a potential mascot.
Okay,
but, I don't
well
know.
done.
This went in an unexpected direction that I thought was kind of funny, so whatever. The vultures sing food, glorious food from Oliver for some reason. I don't know. I didn't hate that surprisingly, even though I hate Oliver. Scratch is pretty good in this one. The slapstick is solid. It's impact is fun.
Okay.
Over the top. But yeah,
Enemies! Attack!
Get out of here!
Scratch is definitely well.
What a
Less good. Oh well, at least it's not Ice Age 3 Dawn of the Dinosaurs or Ice Age 4 Continental Drift or Ice Age 5. Yeah! Robots! Woo! Big well! Hell yeah! Get up off of that thing!
My blade
and
is on
maybe you'll
Ellen.
feel better! Robots is such a strange movie to talk about because
Okay.
it feels like it should simultaneously be better and worse than it actually is. I'm not even really sure what I think
Thanks.
about it because it has so many unbelievable mixed in with typical generic kids movies. Like, it has a tremendous female commentary about it. And will allow for violence. Then it also has an armpit fart contest. They're one truly great. But like, as is, the messages are there.
Pretty sure he's
dead. But he doesn't really do anything with them. Rodney becomes this icon, helping the poor and dismantling the oppressive establishment they all live in. But then the movie drops that, because he's gotta go find Big Well, then they gotta do wacky hijinks at this party, and then there's chase scene, and like, it's fine.
Value.
A little over. They also should have had Kathy meet Rodney way sooner, because as is,
Not
it feels
even.
like you can tweak the story a bit. Robert Williams' attention
Be right back.
isn't that great.
You're welcome.
Funny lines of okay, that's enough to complain about. There's other stuff. Like, mother... Big Well! You know how I was kind of like mean, crazy, yellow earlier? Well, that's how I feel about Big Well. Big Well. Voiced by Mel Brooks. Now, watching this as a 7-year-old, I didn't know who that was, but I could tell he was a big deal. can you do? The funniest joke in all of Blue Sky history.
I'm going in with you. You are? Hey, who's the dame with the sweet keister? But why? I don't know. Big guy and like women with a
So good. The misunderstanding voice acting for both of them. The fact that Big Well is so upfront about his preference for big booty bitches. How fucking cool is that Domino scene for real? In fact, how fucking cool is this world in general? Like, look at it. It's so imaginative and creative and whimsical, and it looks nothing like our own world. It looks like a place robots live in, and they actually put some thought into how robots live.
My blade is unalloyed.
Boxes, and it's so cool. Let's be fucking honest with ourselves for a second. Robots put way more thought into his world building and how the world affects the story than what we do. And it's just a better movie. Like with Birds, it just has so many questions about how the world literally just looks like our world, but sometimes car themed. You could do the story of the first Cars movie with humans, and it wouldn't make much of a difference. Meanwhile, with robots, you actually understand how they work. The story actually ties into robots, and it wouldn't make sense if they weren't robots. Just we finally acknowledge that Pixar really tried the best. Popular and semi-respected because it has the Pixar name attached to it. Blue Sky, dead-ass outfit, oh yeah, the climax is so cool. You know, the outfit is so offensive Renegade style. The fight manifests it. Ooh, and the dastardly villain. And Rash is so funny too. He goes with all to the Britney Spears song, man, so funny. Ooh, and the camera pan. So great. And then the ending. Get up off that thing. It's called Stuff. This is so epic. Okay, I changed my mind. You know, I said I don't feel passionately about any Blue Sky movie. Well, this is the one. This is the only one that I feel passionate about. It has its structural problems and many immature jokes, and it drops some of its most compelling story elements halfway through. But man, it's just got so much good shit in it that it genuinely stuck with me over the years. This is a movie with some real love and care behind it, and you can feel that. I can't realistically rank it higher because of its problems. I think it's robots. Kind of like how Imagine not feeling passionate about the movie that gave us Big Well. Our team is alive like Big Well. I will fight Carson Lundquist for the title of #1 robot. Our battle will be legendary. Actually, nah, he can help.
That's 2 for 1.
Be right back.
Anyway, let's talk about 3 movies that are better than robots, but I don't care about as much as robots.
Protect me from those worthy of combat.
Friends, I have talked a lot of shit about this today. Can you blame me? It's an absolutely asinine franchise that poisons our water supply, burns our crops, and sends us a plague on our houses. Well, with that said, absolutely looking kind of good. Like, yeah, the animation is ugly, it definitely has that studio code. And there's your usual.
Value. Retreat.
He never even mentions his family by name, but his pain and remorse is still explicitly made. It's really neat. The star of the show here is surprisingly Diego. I say surprisingly enough because he never has any but here, destroy them. Plus, when he reveals he was lying to them, they don't mope about it. They end up believing that he wants to help since he has nothing to gain from admitting to them that he lied. It's a pretty refreshing subversion of the liar reveal trope. Made all more potent by the fact that he legitimately to a hero over the course of the film. The other villain is Saber-Tooth Tiger, good. I really like the other stuff in this movie. The sliding scene is fun, and the dodo bird encounter is really fun. That's something I can say about every other scene. The other idea. I don't know, man. This was kind of not amazing, but honestly a pretty good first movie for a studio to make. Oh, also, I never got why everyone hated the Ice Age baby a couple years back, but yeah, that baby, am I right?
I want peanuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to hate the Peanuts movie. This is consistently ranked as one of Blue Sky's best, if not the best film from them, and it's easy to see why. I think this film mostly deserves credit not for what it does, but for what it doesn't do. It doesn't try to modernize it or throw these peeps into the real world. It doesn't cast terrible, overpaid celebrities as iconic, beloved characters, completely bastardizing them in the process. It doesn't turn this property into a weird superhero crossover thing that has nothing to do with the original story. Seriously, what the was Scoob? It deadass just is a classic feeling Peanut story brought to life with 3D animation. I don't know why it's so hard for studios to understand and adapt the appeal of classic properties, but this is an actual example of that sort of thing done right. I really like this movie, but I feel like its praise can be a bit overblown sometimes, mainly because the rest of Blue Sky's tepid filmography makes it look a shit ton better by comparison. Like, I saw a comment once that said that this is Blue Sky's Spider-Verse. Has that person even seen Spider-Verse? Like, what? This is a very sweet and cozy film, but it's definitely not perfect. They do sneak in one weird out-of-place pop song during the movie, which really took me out of what otherwise felt like an authentic
anyways, ഞാനിപ്പോൾ ഇതും തീർത്തു. സോ ഐ ഗസ് ഞാൻ ഇന്നത്തേക്ക് സ്ട്രീംസ് നിർത്തുവാണ്. ഇതുണ്ട് ഐ ഗസ് എനിക്ക് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട്. ബട്ട് എനിവേസ് ഞാൻ നിർത്തുക ഇപ്പം ഇന്നത്തേക്ക്. കുറച്ച് നേരമായി എനിക്ക് കുളിക്കണം. കുളിച്ചിട്ട് കുറച്ച് പണിയുണ്ട് അപ്പാരൻ്റ്ലി. എനിക്കിപ്പോൾ ഓർമ്മ വന്ന കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ആൻഡ് ഐ ഗസ് ഞാൻ നിർത്തുവാണ്. ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ടിലുള്ള വീഡിയോ അതിലെ യൂട്യൂബർ ഷാഫ്രിലസ് പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻസ് അങ്ങനെയാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. എൻ്റെ പ്രൊണൗൺസിയേഷൻ തെറ്റിയെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ കുറേ ആനിമേറ്റഡ് മൂവീസും ആനിമേറ്റഡ് മീഡിയനെ പറ്റി കണ്ടിട്ട് ഇറക്കും. നോട്ട് ആനിമേ, മോസ്റ്റ്ലി പിക്സാർ, ഡിസ്നി, അങ്ങനത്തെ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ, ഡ്രീം വർക്ക്സ്, something like that. He doesn't do much anime content, but ഇങ്ങനെ content actually ഭയങ്കര entertaining ആണ് ഇങ്ങനത്തെ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കാൻ. So for anyone who's curious, just check its channel out. I guess ഞാൻ ഇപ്പത്തേക്ക് നിർത്തുവാണ്. And പതിവ് പോലെ ഗുഡ് ബൈ GG's and to be continued. Bye bye.